All right, week 2 is officially over, and you know what that means. We got to get those waivers in. So Fantasy Rant here to help you out with that. We're gonna dive right in, starting with some quarterbacks. C.J. Stroud, 24% ownership, and he should be on your team right now. He's got more completions than Herbert and Tua right now, more passing yards than Mahomes and Josh Allen. I don't know what else I need to say. Those are some huge names that he's got better numbers than, and not to mention another big name coming up here. It took him 2 games to have a 300-yard passing game. Justin Fields, where are you at with that? 27 games later, nothing there yet. But let's look at his matchups next 3 weeks. We've got a plus matchup in Jacksonville and a tough matchup in Pittsburgh, and then topping it off with Atlanta. That should be another positive matchup. So I like his 3-week outlook. Moving on, speaking of Atlanta, we got Desmond Ritter, 12% ownership. Now, finally, we have a game where he throws more than 30 pass attempts, and what happens? We finally get points. He's connecting with Drake London often. I'm sorry if you overreacted and benched him after going at week 1, but you got to start Drake London, and you got to start Desmond Ritter if you're in a pinch too. Depending if you went late quarterback, he's a great option to add to your team. And in my opinion, he was robbed of another touchdown. He should have had even more points last week. That touchdown to Matt Collins, I thought that was a touchdown. I don't know about that foot going in. But he's got a plus matchup in Detroit, a plus matchup in Jacksonville, and another plus matchup in Houston. He's got the best looking next 3 weeks out of anybody else on this list. So somebody you can start confidently going forward for the next foreseeable future until he proves me wrong. All right, we got Tank Dell moving on to the wide receivers, 20% roster leagues. He had a breakout game going 10 for 7 with 72 and a touchdown. I absolutely love how this guy plays. He has a unique ability to cut and move his way around defenders. Truly just fun to watch and root for. I hate that John Mechie, maybe hesitant to draft him, but Mechie's not a threat for targets. He looks like Tank Dell looks like he's the wide receiver too. And if he keeps on this trajectory, he could even take over Nico Collins as the top dog. But we'll see about that. Next matchups, we got Jacksonville, another plus matchup. Pittsburgh, tough matchup. Atlanta, could be a positive matchup. We did just talk about these matchups because we were talking about CJ. So moving on. Jaylen Hyatt, 30% roster. This is somebody that I drafted, so he would not be somebody that you could add if you were in one of my leagues. He's running over 20 miles per hour and blasting past defenders, mossing defenders, high pointing the ball. He looked great. He would look a lot better if he got some more targets and opportunity, but I think that will increase down the line. He's averaging 45 yards per reception right now with those 2 catches, and he's showcasing his deep threat ability. I'm excited to see what he can do with more opportunity. And if Danny Jones, can actually not underthrow the ball, he might be able to take one to the house too. Looking down the stretch, we got San Francisco, positive matchup, Seattle, positive matchup, and Miami, positive matchup. San Francisco on paper is a positive matchup, but that defense is a tough defense. I'm thinking most of the points are coming in the garbage time. So I don't know if that's something, and maybe that's good for Hyatt. He could come out in garbage time, maybe see what else he could do with more usage. But I hate relying on garbage time, in my opinion. It's not the way to play. But moving on, we have Jaden Reed next, sticking with wide receivers, 19% rostered. He went for almost 100 yards on the season, adding 2 touchdowns this past Sunday. He looks very in tune with Love, and their connection looks to grow throughout the season. But do not keep your expectations this high for him, though, because we still have not seen what's left available. When Watson comes back, there's Dobbs on the field and Reed. So we still don't know what's available for him and what's going to be there. There's Luke Musgrave creeping in for targets as well. So hopefully there's enough for Jaden Reed to get fed. Looking at his matchups down the line, we got this is going to be a tough matchup. If you're planning on starting him next week, I might wait a week. And if he proves you wrong here, start him the rest of the season because he's facing New Orleans. That's a tough defense. Then he's got a really positive defense. Detroit, really positive again with Vegas. So down the stretch, you're fine. Just be careful next week. Moving on, we got Tutu Atwell. This is more of a temporary hold for emergencies while Kupp is out, but he's putting up good numbers, and he should get a startable share of targets until Kupp and Puka take everything that's left. But we'll see when Kupp's coming back. This is still TBD. And looking down the line, we got Cincinnati, positive matchup, Indy, positive matchup, in my opinion, and negative matchup after that when you're facing the Eagles in 3 weeks. So, yeah, I don't know if Kupp's even going to be back by then. So next 2 weeks, I'd start him if I needed to. But moving on, Michael Wilson. This is my deep league pick of the day. If you are in those deep leagues, this is somebody that you should be looking at, or at least having on your watch list. He's 5% rostered right now, so should be available on the wire. And the way I look at that offense, Hollywood Brown is the wide receiver one, but he was not the most efficient. He caught basically half of his 10 targets for barely 50 yards. This is playing the long game when you're taking Mike Wilson. You're playing the long game, expecting him to take over as that wide receiver one role, given his size, frame, and ability, and what he's able to do. We have yet to see him in the red zone, but hopefully that's something we could see as he gets more utilization down the line. And at least we'll have some consistent need to play catch up since we are talking about Arizona, and they're going to have to be playing catch up and throwing the ball a lot, second halves, things like that. Looking down the line, we got negative matchup in Dallas, so be careful starting him next week. I'm definitely not starting him next week, or I'm not even starting him until I start to see the change in his usage. But he does have some positive matchups to make that happen. San Francisco and Cincinnati after that. So we will see. But somebody to definitely monitor, in my opinion, going forward. All right, moving on. We have tight ends. Kinan Granson. So if you are friends with me, I've had you add this guy to your rosters. He's another deep pick, but he was targeted the second most on the team for first week, third most on the team second week. So he's averaging to be a top 3 target on the team. There is no Anthony Richardson right now. In my opinion, I don't think he's going to be playing next week, but expect him to, connect with Kinan Granson when he comes back. So he's been a top 3 target. The biggest question mark here is Jelani Woods when he comes back from IR. So those of us that drafted tight end late or never, he's a guy that you can grab off the waiver wire and be comfortable starting for the next few weeks for now. But that's, before you take a look at the matchups. So this is almost emergency protocol. He's got Baltimore. That's a terrible matchup for tight ends. Rams, terrible matchup for tight ends. And then a plus matchup at Tennessee after that. But who knows? Jelani Woods may be back off IR then. That is week 5. So we'll see from there. All right, next ones we're going to get into are injury ads. So be careful with these. Manage expectations. It's wild to see, some of the managers who they left on the bench to start Joshua Kelly last week, who got you a nice 39 yards for 13 carries. I'm sorry for you, but as a Chargers fan, I sniffed that one out, and I didn't even pick up Joshua Kelly. Not interested. I don't know why. I should be probably, but moving on. We have some guy that we actually do want to talk about, Jerome Ford. He looked great. He should be the guy until further notice, but I expect an addition to that backfield as well. We have increased Pierre Strong usage that could potentially come into the play as well. They did pick him up recently, and I personally like Strong. He's got explosive talent, and I just don't know. I don't know how he's going to comp with Jerome, or if they add anybody else to the backfield, it could get a little messy there. But next 3 matchups, we have Tennessee. That's a negative matchup. Baltimore, negative matchup. And then we have a bye week. So maybe if you have Jerome Ford on your team, I try to sell him. I've talked to, I know we all know Dan, follow the volume. He's trying to sell him. He just threw him on the trade block, and I do not blame him because this, who knows how things can shake up here. But Matt Breida, moving on to him, 3% rostered. Sorry what happened to Saquon. Sorry what happened with Chubb, but we got to get these guys out of the way and talk about them. I mean, given the look and initial indications of severity, Saquon, I thought, was a pretty severe injury. The outlook was expected to be gone for 3 weeks, but then all of a sudden I saw, wait, let's just, we might even throw him in for Thursday night football, give a guy 4 or 5 days to rest. That doesn't make any sense to me. So I don't know what's going on with these notifications. Seems like two completely opposite ends of the spectrum for me, and it's not making sense. So I got to wait for the clouds to clear on that one before I go all in on Breida. But if, Saquon's out, I expect Breida to get, at least 15 carries, and he could be a startable guy for it. But that's pretty much all I had for you guys on the main ones I wanted to break down. We do have some notable mentions here. We got Ty Conklin, Marvin Mims, Mac Hollins, Nelson Aguilar, No Fant, Ty Spears, Tutu Atwell, Devontae Parker, maybe some Bam Bam Zonovan Knight, who just got added to the Detroit Lions. So those are some names to also consider. But as of now, this is a wrap. And see you guys next time.